welcome to another Listener Submitted Month episode. This week we're talking about The Keep from 1983. And boy, do we have a long email here from Josh, so let's dive in. The email says, "Hey guys, I'm a huge fan of the podcast and I've been listening for quite a while. I'm also a huge horror movie fan and I've been collecting horror movies since I was a kid. Yes, that includes VHS rarities. I remember posting up on weeknights watching everything from Sci-Fi Channel reruns to MST3K and Elvira to catch anything horror related that I could find. I even started getting my 6-year-old into having a Friday night horror movie night where we would camp out in the living room and stay up watching horror movies together, but I am careful of the content just to be safe. I recently started going back through all the old episodes, and maybe I just missed where you guys might have covered a specific movie, but if you haven't watched The Keep, I highly recommend this gem. This thing is definitely right up Horror Movie Night's alley. It's got atmosphere, a creepy monster, a castle, throw in some Nazis, a few religious tropes, and a die-hard sequel villain, and you have The Keep. Don't get me wrong, this movie is something, but I remember catching it on Sci-Fi one day, and it left a mark for sure. It's like a director thought that they could combine Indiana Jones, Da Vinci Code, Poltergeist, Exorcist, and Ninja 3, the shitty Exorcist canon one, and threw it in a blender and got this shit smoothie that just stains your soul. Even though it is definitely a bad movie, it's still a movie that I can't not watch when it's on TV somewhere. If it helps, Scott can get on board because technically it's a period piece from the war. Matt will love the kills from the supernatural monster that resembles the first on-screen version of X-Men's Apocalypse. And everyone else can just love to hate how the special effects coordinator totally fell on a fog machine and filled the set for the entire movie. Again, I love the podcast, and I love being able to listen to you guys while working. Thanks for everything you do, and I look forward to more episodes, Josh."
It's crazy rereading that, because like I read it when we were going through, deciding what we were going to pick for this month. And after watching this, I read that the special effects coordinator fucking died
during production,
during
pushed them
the
back
end of production, and therefore I can't laugh at that
unless he literally fell on a fog machine, and then maybe.
So did he die? So here's
he
the
died
only
of a heart attack.
I was gonna say he didn't die because of negligence. He just happened to.
He died. I think he might have been older. And people died earlier back in the 80s. Like they were doing coke, and,
Yeah.
But so this movie was a lot stupider before I read the book. It's still stupid. I mean, I like this movie. I think that it's visually stunning, but reading the book and seeing where, I read the book. Listeners may remember I found a hardcover copy of it at an antiquarian book fair this past spring. Read it, enjoyed it, and it makes a lot more sense. So watching it after reading the book, I see. So we all, the three of us, talked in chat before recording. This is a 96-minute theatrical cut of this movie. The original director's cut was 210 minutes. That's 3.5 hours long.
Which is crazy because apparently, like you said, the director's cut was 3.5 hours long, and that's crazy to me because the 90-minute version of the movie feels like it's 3.5 hours to me.
No,
because
kidding.
There's not a whole lot going on.
No,
and they've cut a lot of integral backstory.
The author hated this adaptation.
Yes, he did.
So much so that he then wrote a short story about a writer getting a voodoo doll to inflict pain on a writer-director who ruined the source material of one of their stories.
And that's not all. Also, and I want to say 2016, he wrote a screenplay for the movie and had it made into a graphic novel. And he said, this is what the movie should have been. This is my take on the movie because the movie was terrible. And the director,
Michael Mann.
Michael fucking Mann.
Yeah. I guess that they wanted to do, people have asked him for a director's cut. They've asked him for at least some of the stuff that's been missing. And he's like, that stuff's been lost. Because apparently, so the original director's cut was 210 minutes. And then I think it was cut down to 130 or something like that. I mean, it was cut down significantly.
2 hours 10.
And it was, and that was the test audience version, and the test audiences hated it. And Paramount made them do a 96-minute cut. And like Tangerine Dream's soundtrack makes no sense because like all the cues are wrong. The sound design is all fucked because so this was originally supposed to be a 16-week or a 13-week shoot.
It was supposed to be a 13-week shoot.
It was 22
and it ended up being
weeks long.
Yeah,
with reshoots.
That's some Jaws shit right there.
Yeah, and in that time, the fucking special effects supervisor died. The sound
This was
never
a Christmas
got finished.
release. This was released the week of Christmas.
December 22nd, right?
Yeah.
God,
Like
the
so
most
many things
wonderful
about this are so sad because like there are awesome things about this movie that I did
No
not
doubt.
catch when I first watched it. Like the sets alone are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I do think that Molazar looks fucking dumb. I do agree that. So, do you guys want to know what the story of the book was?
I would love to know what the story of anything was because when I watched, when I watched,
clarification.
when I watched this movie, it genuinely felt like, and I'm over exaggerating, obviously, but I felt two things. First, I felt like 90% of the movie was just ambient music and establishing shots. Like in my head, I'm like, you cut a 3.5-hour movie down to 90 minutes, but these were the 90 minutes. Like this is the part that you're like, well, these are the
ones
crucial
that they
shots.
had the most special effects put into. That's really what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that I wrote down is to quote The Simpsons. This movie had a real when are we going to get to the fireworks factory energy to it. Like I just kept waiting and waiting for me to get enticed. And I know that I've watched this movie once before. I think it was on Netflix like years ago.
Yeah, I'm
as
pretty
a streaming
sure it was,
option. And I watched it then, and I remember I was like kind of whatever about it because this was one of the 101 horror movies you've never heard of but should probably see from that Fangoria book that I have. So I was like, oh, finally I can watch The Keep. And it didn't do anything for me. I was so excited to like rewatch it for this, and I like reread the Wikipedia page. I reread that page, like the 2 pages that are in the Fangoria book. Like I was like, what am I missing in this movie? And at the end of the day, sometimes just a movie's not for you. But it just felt like it was like a modernized Gollum movie, and I don't really like Gollum movies that much either. Like I just couldn't figure out what it all meant, why it was so long.
Molazar being a golem is not what the book is at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that he is in this either, but I feel like it's fitting a similar vibe of what the like. It's like, oh, this is the like. It felt like it was like, can we do a Gollum story, but
like that's the whole
but
thing, like
modern?
Yeah, well, and the crazy thing about this movie is, if you think about it, so this movie turned 40 this year.
Oh, an anniversary, and the listener submitted?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was completely coincidental. We did not think about that when we were picking, but I was like, 83, holy shit, it's been 40 years. Think about this movie being made 40 years after when it was set. So if we were to make a movie about this movie being made, like a mockumentary or like a Shadow of the Vampire kind of thing, it would be set in 1983 and be made about a movie that is supposed to be 40, like that is supposed to be 80
doing something
years
like
ago.
that seems so hard. That's double production design, and that's double set design, and that's
If
double
you got the
time
money.
period shit. And if you got the money, honey, I suppose, but that's exhausting.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that we're trying to make this movie. I'm just saying that, thought experiment wise, it's
I like it.
equally
wild.
long ago that it was made as the length of time that it was supposed to be portraying. But so the book, which I think was greenlit for the movie within a year of publication. It was crazy. I think that it came out in 82.
Some of those situations.
81
It
or
was
something.
81 or 82. Yeah.
I think it was 81 and the movie came out in 83.
I think one of the things that a lot of people forget, and I recently was reminded this from the Sharksploitation doc that dropped on Shudder, but like even with Jaws, they were starting pre-production on the Jaws movie before the book had hit shelves. That was how confident they were in that book being the hit that it ended up being, that they had already, like, from just hearing the title and seeing a cover and getting a log line, we're like, yeah, we're making that into a movie.
But do you think
get
the
those
book
rights.
would have been as popular without the movie?
I think that is an answer we'll never know, honestly, because the book is not good. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Is it like the book? rests on the success of the film.
Yeah.
Now
It's
we
really-
can't say the
it's
same thing
really
about
early.
F. Paul Wilson's The Keep. All right.
Yeah. No. It's not. But it's every once in a while there's like these books that come out that like for example, Eric J. Brown, our friend from the show. I know that he, from like the start, when he's pitching books now, there is always when they're looking at the books, can this be optioned for something else down the line, is like part of the discussion when he presents 5 or 6 story ideas. Which one do they see? Well, if this is a hit, how well will it translate into blank, blank, and blank?
It's multiple
Bro,
revenue
guys.
streams.
Yeah.
Hey,
how it
I'm so sorry to interrupt this, but did you guys know there was a Keep board game?
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay. It looks difficult. It looks like Sorry takes place in a maze. But I was trying to dig because I didn't
feel
know
like-
how early in F. Paul Wilson's career The Keep was, which is
It was like his
really early. It's
third
not
book?
like it's not his like
Second book?
debut novel, but it's up there, and it's the first in a series of 6.
Now,
No,
a lot of those
Scott,
didn't.
you going?
There was almost a decade between him starting that quote unquote series and getting back to it because of the cult following that The Keep created. I only know this. I didn't read his Wikipedia, so this is a little bit spotty. This is a little secondhand information, but my understanding is the guy that I bought the son of the guy that I bought that copy of The Keep from in the spring was like a huge F. Paul Wilson fan, and he was like, oh, this kind of eventually kicked off this whole mini series that he worked on, and it was this guy who went around like solving quasi paranormal mysteries, and I'm like, that sounds cool, and I was like trying to extricate myself from the conversation, so because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna want to read the rest, because like I don't really like the fucking Hardy Boys, you know, so I wasn't really thinking that was gonna be
stuff
my thing,
like that.
you know,
It's like I don't need a supernatural Sherlock Holmes. I don't need Sherlock Holmes at
right.
all.
I mean, if
So any of
Sherlock
this
Holmes was
is-
actually supernatural instead of a Scooby-Doo type thing, like I'd probably be more inclined to read it. But there's so much supernatural stuff out there that I can read anyway that I'll just stick with that. But so to get to the Keep of it all, so the for the uninitiated listener, the movie revolves around this Nazi occupation of a Romanian fortress, the titular Keep, and it's got these silver crosses, cross-like insignias all across, the battlements or whatever, the walls and stuff. And the Nazis are like thinking of they're like, oh, I'm gonna we want to steal, like some of the the privates or whatever are trying to steal one of the silver crosses to then sell, and it's war profiteering, right? They open up, they get one out of the wall, and it leads to a deeper cavern that eventually releases this supernatural entity whose name is Molasar. And Molasar in the book is a vampire. He is an ultimate evil. And it makes and it takes him night after night. He's draining the blood from 1 or 2 Nazi soldiers. Now, I'm never gonna cry about a Nazi getting fucking killed. It's fantastic to watch. Love it. In this, he's more of a psychic or energy type vampire, and he sucks the energy or like the soul from their eyes and mouth, and then their heads explode, which is so much more cinematic than a vampire.
Yeah.
So that's why I do not. I mean, it's hard for me to say that I don't like Molasar's design in the movie because his final form looks dumb, and I agree that it looks like
I liked it in
Apocalypse.
I liked it in the shadow, like that first
The foggy
glowing
thing?
Yes,
That is
well,
actually
the in between the fog
when he's
and
got just like the beginning of his
and the being
corporeal
yes,
form. Yeah,
it's almost it's Hellraiser-y, right?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like this soul, like this sort of like building up this monster of him, because I like those first kills a lot. Actually, I kind of liked like when that first cross comes out and the reverse smoke getting pulled back in, and we have this idea of this energy transference happening. But
it's
then
very similar in the book. It's that first death, Lotz's death, is very similar in the book, except that his head doesn't explode, which I do love that we get that visual, because it just looks better than. I'm sick of vampires sucking blood. Like it's.
Yeah.
But so Molasar really just picks off Nazis one by one over the course of a week, and that's giving him more and more energy so that he can have more of a corporeal form. They did a really good job, in my opinion, of early 80s special effects, on some effects in post, getting him to look like Smoke, because that is actually how he gets around in the book before he has a corporeal form. But then Ian McKellen and his daughter show up because they're supposed to translate the words on the wall because he's like a scholar, blah, blah, blah. That tracks with the book. What's his name?
The names I
Yeah,
got
no,
names like
That was my other big struggle, trying to follow along on the Wikipedia page. I'm like, all of these names are German.
Oh, speaking of, I'm drinking another Beck's, baby.
Oh, 'cause it's German?
We got a twofer back to back.
I
Back
do
to
not
back,
like
more like it.
Oktoberfest, but I am having an Oktoberfest because
Right.
one, Oktoberfest always happens in September, which is fucking weird to me.
Which is
And second
crazy.
of all, it's a German beer, and this, we're watching Nazis get killed. So
I did. I had an Oktoberfest on deck, and then after watching Night Killer, I was like, well, I'll just get a 6-pack of Beck's. And I'll cover a couple.
I was
And it
gonna go with
sucks,
Jaeger, but I was like, well,
No.
I love Jaeger. Actually, like, as far as
Do you really like Jaeger?
Oh yeah, I'm one of the few.
It was my, yeah.
You
It was my
probably
drink in
overdosed
college.
on it. You overdid it one too many times.
I used to drink it out of a dinosaur sippy cup. You know those sippy cups that you get in the grocery store that
Yeah.
are shaped like a T-Rex, and then they have just a straw.
Yeah.
I would go to every party with one of those full of Jaeger.
Not
if
mixed?
not two. Not mixed. Just
Oh
Jaeger.
my god!
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so I have an aversion to it.
Yeah.
Because
Your body says no.
My body says no. And that like plastic, I still have those cups, and that plastic just absorb.
Oh
just
yeah,
absorb.
yeah. Can you?
Because I was
put
also
some,
in college.
can
I
you
probably
bring
didn't
some
wash
to
it for a
me?
week.
Can I have some water in one of those? And I can get like
I'll
a
see you
little bee
creature
off
feature.
of it.
No, it's getting the Jaeger. You only get one if it's filled with Jaeger. I'm sorry.
That's 8 ounces of Jaeger. I'd be dead. Anyway.
Yeah, we can split it. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. We can sippy cup. That's great Patreon content right there. Patreon.com/AsianMan Podcast. Watch us drink Jaeger out of a dinosaur sippy cup. $5 a month.
For you. We do it for you.
Yeah, it's definitely not for us. But
No.
anyway, and we have young Gabriel Byrne, which is hilarious for
Love
him to
it.
be a fucking Sturmbannführer.
He feels
a
like an
shock trooper.
HMN staple.
Yeah,
Gabriel
no,
Byrne now. He's on the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he has to go on the wall. But I don't like that he kills Jurgen Pinchov. What's his name? The brown shirt, not the black shirt Nazi. He shoots him in the movie. It doesn't, or in the book, it doesn't work that way. But I do have one big sticking point with the changes between the movie and the book. It's the fact that Molasar says to Ian McKellen, this token of my power needs to be taken outside of the keep walls so that I can leave. It looks like a flashlight in the movie. In the book, it's the same shape as those crosses that are in all the walls. And they do something similar in the movie, but the reason that Clagan, who is the supernatural good, because in the book, Molasar is this eternal vampire, and Clagan is like his good inverse, and they are just like pawns for ultimate good and evil, devil Satan kind of thing, and they will forever fight each other. And Molasar wants to utilize the Nazis because there's this whole conversation in the book about the death camps and how he's like he tells Ian McKellen's character, the old man, that he cures him and makes him feel young again. He was like, I'm going to end the death camps, but really he's going to go to the death camps and he's going to utilize that human suffering to get more power. I feel like a lot of this backstory is lost by the theatrical cuts.
Yeah.
But in any case, when Clagan comes back from being shot, he takes the hilt that Ian McKellen is holding in your background. It's the fucking hilt of a magical sword. I don't know why they didn't do that in the movie, because having him have this weird staff that shoots light is so much more work. It doesn't make sense for Clagan being an eternal, basically an archangel,
Yeah.
that was a real sticking
it's-
point for me. But it looks cool, but it would look so much fucking cooler if it was a sword.
You explaining what it is in the book sounds a lot cooler than what is pictured here and what we saw in the movie. It seems like it's supposed to be some sort of relic, which we already sort of did when that first cross looks like silver and not nickel, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, so they go for it, and it's like, well, then if you're gonna do that, just do that again. Just do the silver, make that silver cross a thing. But that obviously there's a much bigger film. There's a double the amount of film that exists that they then
Existed.
cut down
I
to
think
make.
it's gone. Sadly,
Existed. No, it's
so
it's.
sad.
You know what? I do firmly believe that it will be found somewhere. I don't know. I found London After Midnight apparently, and somehow that's coming out.
I feel like I hear them say that all the time, and then I never see them.
Listen, how long did we wait for the Kindred?
That's true.
Yeah. Well, let's just hope that it doesn't fall in the hands of Synapse, because then God, we'll never see the Keep.
Yeah, our children will maybe get to see that copy.
Maybe,
of the Keep,
maybe, and then they'll be like,
was it worth the wait?
Yeah, they're really stoked about it.
Hey, you know what? If not for the Keep, we might not have ever had Miami Vice. So there's that.
Very true. No, it's looking at Michael Mann's career is pretty fascinating, and to see where this sort of lands in there.
It's a lot more home runs than I think I give him credit for. Manhunter is phenomenal.
So good.
Manhunter's a phenomenal
Thief,
movie.
which preceded this, is fantastic. This feels victim of...
Heat is the iconic action 90s movie, really. And then I love that he
fucking
created...
Heat.
Yeah, he created Miami Vice, and then he also wrote, directed, and produced the 2006 Miami Vice reboot movie.
He has to
all
have
these
his
years
hand in
later.
it somewhere.
Yeah.
Why not? It's
Multiple
his baby.
revenue streams, guys.
Yeah.
I literally thought, for sure he's listed as working on Miami Vice because it's based on a show he created. Not that he decided to jump back into the director's scene, but alas, I was wrong.
He felt really strongly emotionally connected to Miami Vice.
To Miami fucking Vice.
Hell yeah, dude.
The same way that last week on paper there's a lot of stuff about Night Killer that we probably shouldn't have it's not that we didn't like, but that would normally be red flags that we were then like, oh my God. This one felt the opposite, where it's on paper, I was like, damn, okay. Just like Josh said, though, there's a lot of it that we probably could have liked more than we did in the Keep. But that last act, all the atmosphere of it, a lot of the special effects, I love that. I even liked a lot of the dramatic monologues, but they did just feel out of place, the same way that Tangerine Dream's fucking score was just
they did find the rest of it, and they released it as a compilation in the early 2000s, I want to say. It would be interesting it's mostly audio cues, and it's not really melodic like a lot of other Tangerine Dream stuff.
It's 45-second stuff
cues
and yeah,
audio cues. So I would still be interested to know a little bit more about. Maybe just give it one listen through and see what.
Well, especially with your knowledge of the book, I wonder if it would lead lead you through some of what the book is.
So Roger Ebert fucking hated this movie, and he ripped it a new asshole when it came out. When has Roger Ebert ever liked anything that we like?
Gene Siskel gave it 2 stars, and his argument was that the soundtrack was wildly out of place. Maybe
it was Siskel that said that.
I think it was Siskel. He said it was the most inaudible movie of the year.
Yes, that was
because
him.
the audio. Yeah, because the audio mix. He goes, yeah, you've got beautiful pictures and a soundtrack, but the music's mixed so loud you can't hear any of the dialogue, which is going to leave you completely confused as to what the hell is happening.
Plus, they needed to ADR everything, and they didn't get a chance to. And there are a lot. This movie is very rough around the edges, but I do think that it's kind of got a cool vibe. Maybe me watching it after the whole wave of outrun music in the last decade or so gave me a stronger appreciation for the kind of just that feeling that it sets you in, because it doesn't really fit with you'd think 1940s Nazis getting murdered by a supernatural force. You're going to have a classical soundtrack with audio cues and things like that, but it kind of has its own thing going on, and I don't hate it.
As you're
Yeah.
describing the book, though,
Sure.
what I was left thinking was, if this was being produced in 2023, it would have 1,000% been pitched as like a 6-episode miniseries. Like, we're gonna
And it
really
would have
flesh
worked.
this out.
It would have absolutely worked
and it
because you would have
would've-
seen
you know
the
what I mean?
backstories, and it would have been awesome.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, maybe we'll get. I think that that's not impossible, because there is such a cult following for The Keep. People really
They
care about
talk
that
about-
book. Like, I think it'll happen.
Somebody-
I thought that they were.
Somebody
I thought that it
was
was
in
in
talks to-
I think that it's in pre-production actually.
I
I remember
think so,
last year
too. I'm
people
trying
talking
to-
about it,
There we go.
or maybe even beginning of this year.
We're making an ad.
Napping
Yeah.
ads.
I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast, brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the
That's
ad.
the ad.
That's the ad. That's the ad.
Well, Scott, I would say that since you're the Keep master here, maybe you should be the one to kick us off on a double feature.
Sure, and I'm going to keep it real short. I'm going to go with The Church because the names are similar,
Ah.
the vibe is similar, and I have not watched The Church in probably 15 years, and I would love to revisit it. I've been kind of saving it for HMN. I don't, because it makes no sense. I think that we could get a really good episode out of it, but I also don't remember if there's any essay in it.
I think I've asked this before, and I'll ask it again because I never remember the answer. Is The Church the one that's also advertised sometimes as Demons 3?
I actually think it
I
is.
think
Like, I think it's Sauvé, right?
Yeah.
Who did Stage Fright? I think he did The Church.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I
or-
did. Yes, that's correct.
I'm pretty sure.
It's very
I-
Italian.
The Church. The Church was one of the first.
It's like the thing about it that I remember is the last shot. It's just so monumental in
I've
every
never
sense of
seen
the
it,
word.
so I'm excited
I
for
might
whenever
have
we
to
get
review
there.
it before picking it for the show. I don't want to put us
Review it.
through it.
Why not just read the Wikipedia plot synopsis?
That totally tells us everything we need to know.
Yeah.
It should cover the main ick. I'm gonna go with a more modern than The Keep. Anyway, I don't know. This gave me a little bit of a Pan's Labyrinth vibe.
Sure.
I was like, I could watch Pan's Labyrinth with this.
Wow.
Another one of those humans are more evil than supernatural
Just-
creatures type vibe.
anytime that fascists get dismembered by a supernatural being, I am there for
Yeah,
it.
we're all signed up for that. How about you, Kyle?
Dead Snow.
Again,
Perfect.
actually, I think that Dead Snow 2 would be a better,
I actually think I would agree with you. Dead Snow 2 would be a lot
just
more
because
fun.
I think that they really leaned into it more in that.
They
one.
really totally do not have the same vibe at
No.
all. But I think that sometimes that's fun. We just do contextual themes and not atmospheric themes.
Yeah.
Here.
Exactly. Well, we're not ready to leave just yet because, our friends are still striking, which means that we're not talking about movies or TV shows, but that still means that everything else is on the table. Podcasts, books, music, etc. So, Scott, we're going to throw it to you. What is something that you want to promote that people should check out or maybe not check out?
So I want to give a shout out to a listener that we met at the punk rock flea market last month, and he gave Matt and I a copy of his first book. His name is Z.K. Kroll, Krol. He was so sweet. Really, really nice guy. He and his wife came up and talked to us for a while. I guess he's been listening to the show for quite a while, and he lives in town. Never met him before. And he was like talking about his book, and he said, "Do you want a copy to read?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to read it." He said, "Well, it's pretty dark," and I was like, I can handle it. I can't promise that I'm gonna, like the themes, but I want to I want to check it out." And so he gave Matt and I a copy of the book. Matt, have you read it yet?
I haven't read it yet, but it's on my pile of things to read for sure.
I blasted through it in an evening. It's 100 pages, and there's a lot to like about it. It is very dark. I thought that it was really competently written for a first outing because I have tried to stay not necessarily up on local and regional writers as much as when I get when the opportunity presents itself, if somebody or somebody's material that is local and in the the horror genre comes across my path, I want to read it. I want to really stress that it was well written. I did see some of the second act coming, and I was like, oh, you're going to do the dumb thing. Like the protagonist. I was like, you're going to do the dumb thing, aren't you? And you're going to get yourself into a worse situation. He does. I was pretty gobsmacked with the last scene. Overall, thought that it was very effective. There is just one constructive criticism that I have, which is that there is a little throwaway bit of R in it, and it does not make the antagonist. It does not fit with the antagonist's MO. It just felt like it was added to make that character more vile. When that character really doesn't see itself as vile, it sees itself as doing good. That's my only critique. I would say, if you were to want to do a second edit of it and just take out that paragraph, fucking fantastic book. That's my 2 cents. I think you can find it on Amazon. I'm pretty sure I saw that it was available. It's on Goodreads. I believe that you can get it through BarnesandNoble.com. Disseverment. DISSEVERMENT. And his last name is spelled KROL.
I'm going to do something weird once again, and this time my thing that I know. Well, first of all, the Geekscape podcast. Hey, do you like video games? Check out the Dynamic Resolution podcast, formerly known as Geekscape Games. I don't know shit about games, but I listen to it every week. They're pretty funny. But the thing that I want to promote is just the person Robert Bacon. I've been on a real Robert Bacon kick as of late. He sent me when he was on a dating show.
Cholesterol.
So it could do some damage.
Sorry.
I definitely uploaded it to TikTok when he was on the Love Connection in 2017. I've been re-listening to all of Adam Sandler Please Stop, which is just like unbelievably funny. And I sent you guys his newest YouTube video for these two idiots. It's just him and his wife watch random movies and record their in real-time commentary while they're watching it. I actually just contacted him recently and was like, hey, if you haven't figured out your October lineup for what you guys are going to do, might I suggest you throw Sleepaway Camp and Teen Wolf into the mix, because I think you'd have fun with both of them. So hopefully we get to see those in the next month or so. But yeah, Bacon's just a good dude. I love the man. He's very funny, and
everything he says is hilarious. It's annoying how funny he is.
He's one of those people who literally makes me feel like, why do I even try? Because everything just is so naturally funny. I think I sent you guys the clip of when he was ranting about Crackle on Adam Sandler Please Stop, and then he's just like, I need to take a break. Let's go to an ad. This week's episode is actually sponsored by Crackle. And Kyle, send us home. What is something you want to talk about, promote, etc.?
Yeah, I went to my wife and I celebrated 10 years.
Congrats!
Thank you. And we went to Nashville for our anniversary. So, and let me just preface, anytime we take a vacation, it usually has a secondary purpose, right? We're taking a vacation to move. We're taking a vacation to see other people and hang out with other friends that aren't necessarily just a one-on-one vacation. So it was really nice to spend 4 days at a location neither of us have ever been, not overplan, and just be, right?
Yeah, not associated with any other shit that needed to get done.
No, turns out we had some friends down there, so we got to see them, and we had other things that we wanted to do. Carly is a big fan of Chef Sean Brock, and he has 3 restaurants down there, so that was we bounced around to those and whatever, right? It wasn't whatever, it was the best. But the thing that I wanted to talk about was they obviously, country music's big down there. We went to the Country Music Museum and Hall of Fame, which is fantastic. But just recently they opened the Museum of African American Music, which is right there in the heart of Nashville on Broadway. They opened in 2021. This year is celebrating 50 years of hip hop, which I should have looked up what what the royal we or the royal they are claiming to be the start of hip hop. I would imagine that it started by white people, so I don't know if that's actually
no.
like,
I think the bar
or
that
proclaimed
they
by white people.
yeah,
I should say.
I think the barometer. I could be wrong on the year released. I think it's Rapper's Delight is what they look at.
Okay, gotcha.
Or there was one before that. There's a rap song in 1973 that's considered the first like legitimate rap song, and then
Sure.
like a couple years later, Sugar Hill Gang with Rapper's Delight came out, and that was like the first like rap song to make it onto popular radio.
Yeah, got you. Okay. So I thought I assumed it was something like that, but I was not quite positive, and I did not do my due diligence to look it up. But however, this museum is not just about hip hop. They were setting up an event to celebrate 50 years, but we attended the museum 2 hours before that event happened. And like we've all been to a museum or some sort of gallery, and there's some interactivity to it that we just probably don't partake in, right? Like we don't, like, they have all these exhibits and these like listening things, and it's a self-guided tour, but like we're not going to buy the head. Like there's a lot of reasons that I go to museum, and sometimes it's not to be curated to. Sometimes it's just for me to like go and experience the thing. This museum had probably the best interactive stuff that I have ever seen. And you know, it starts the history of African American music obviously starts with a lot of the slave trade and what's brought over, and then it moves into gospel, and then it moves into soul and funk and blues and jazz, and like it has all these parts. And part of each exhibit, each time period had this table which would be like this interactive family tree. You'd put on headphones, you'd hit the big, you know, touch table, and it would give you this big circle where you could go and listen to an artist, listen to 3 songs by that artist, and see a graph or like a pie chart. That artist's influences that artist's peers, and then the artist that particular artist influenced. And you could sit there and stand there, which we did, Carly and I did, for minutes. You could probably even be there for an hour, but we only had 2 hours before the museum closed. And just go through this chart connecting influences of people. Like for me, I always came back to funk and jazz, and like Sun Ra would influence this, or like George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic would influence this, or then like at the very end when we were talking pop and rap and hip hop combining, like I would start with En Vogue, and then I would go back 10 years or then forward 10 years. It was just like, I don't know, I realized that I was like, oh, I don't do this at museums because a lot of museums don't get it right, or they don't make it fun. Like it seems like an extra thing. I just really, really loved that particular museum. It was full of information. I could have spent many more hours there. And we loved it. Carly and I both loved it. It was great. It was awesome. It was a great vacation, and a great anniversary trip, and that was a highlight for sure. So if you're ever in Nashville, go to it.
Nice. Just to very quickly, we can be educational sometimes. We can be Wikipedia educational anyway. It looks like on August 11th, 1973 is where they kind of define.
We went on August 10th. We were there
right
on August 10th.
What?
So.
On August 11th, 1973, DJ Kool Herc was the DJ at his sister's back to school party. He discovered that he was able to extend the beat of a record by having 2 record players and isolating the percussion breaks by using a mixer and a switchboard to bounce between them to keep the beat going. Then from that point on, he began experimenting with making music using just the record player in what is now known as breaking or scratching. So that is historically the start of hip hop.
Got you. NPR's been doing a Tiny Desk series about prominent hip hop artists, which has been very fun too. Just to throw another thing out there, the Cypress Hill one was great.
Yes. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a very good 2-part miniseries at one point on Netflix that was about the history of early hip hop in the 70s as well. But that was 1983's The Keep, as picked by our listener Josh. We have one more listener submitted pick left to go.
I don't want to leave.
I mean, listen. We're gonna get through this, and then it's hack to the way that we normally do things around here. So stay tuned for next week's listener submitted pick.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.